Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. Today we're going to be talking over an Echo game where I think I end with 21 kills, and we still end up losing, so showing this game for a couple of reasons. First one you're going to see is the start. The early game is kind of interesting because we do get invaded by the Master Yi, and so I'm kind of going to talk about how I respond to that early game. Then we'll go into the later parts of the game. A lot of things happen. It's a pretty eventful game because of all the kills and everything. So we'll just kind of talk through it as we go. But starting off, you're going to see that so it's Master Yi. The Master Yi is taking Ignite, so he has no flash. And when I see my things are not here, like I see it and I'm like, oh, my Raptors aren't there. I should have been like anticipating that I'm going to get invaded, but I assumed like, oh, he's just leaving for whatever reason. So then you see he shows up here, and we basically just try to flip the smite, and he ends up landing the smite. So ends up going very bad. Luckily, I don't die here, but it is very bad. And then you're going to see, I try to see if I can 1v1 my Krugs, or my Wolves, and it's a very eventful 1v1. You know, it really could have gone either way here. It was a pretty intense, because unfortunately, I put my W bat. If I put my W in the right spot, this wouldn't have happened. But it was a pretty funny start to the game. And so obviously, dying to your Wolves is not how you want to start after getting invaded. But what I do want to talk about in terms of the response to the invade is not panicking when something does go wrong early. Like, the invade went bad. Obviously, I luckily didn't die. I was very close to dying, and it would have been harder if I died. But regardless, you want to just make sure you're not panicking, and you're kind of just taking what you can get after the invade happens. So I'm not going to go and try to force an invade on him, for example. I could recall and invade him. I'm too weak to do that. He's going to be stronger than me. He's going to be clearing faster than me because, obviously, my invade, or his invade, kind of screwed me over. I can't stop that, right? All I'm going to do is just take what I have from here. So I'll take the rest of my camps that are up, recall from my mana boots, as you're going to see here. And then from there, because my red side got invaded, the timers are all a bit different. So my red camps are still going to be the next ones to spawn. But my Raptors and my Krugs will spawn at basically the exact same time because he took Raptors as I was taking Krugs. So because of that, I want to be, you know, very sure that I'm on the camp right away, as you're seeing, like, immediately going from Krugs then to Raptors, just because they're spawning at basically the same time. And then I know that the red buff is going to spawn especially, you know, further off compared to the other red side camps, because, again, it was kind of fought over and took a longer time to clear and everything. So instead of sticking around my red side, now I'm immediately going to just leave and go to back to my blue side. But again, because of the weird timers, because of how the invade worked out, I'm going to then realize that there's probably going to be scuttles up, or there might be some of his camps up. There's just going to be more random things available on the map, and so checking for those is going to be important. And then also valuing ganks a bit higher when an early game goes like this. So if I see an opportunity to, for example, make a play, I'm going to do that on this side of the map, because, again, I don't have as much time to... or I don't have as many camps up or as many things to do. So again, you see, I saw Master Yi bot side. He has my red buff timer because he invaded the first time, and so I know he's probably going to go for my red buff. And so again, I'm just trying to squeeze what I can gold-wise out of the situation. Even though he gets my red buff, I get an invade on his Raptors, and then I'm in a position to at least get some type of gank off in the early game, as you saw here, which basically just, again, leads to us getting a kill and getting something out of the situation. Obviously, I'm not really going to try to match him. I didn't even really need to ult there, but I did. But again, I'm not going to try to match the Master Yi because obviously he's stronger than me early. So instead, we play around our lane. You know, that's on the side that we just cleared, or that our camps are spawning on next, which is the blue side, since we'd already cleared our red side earlier. And we don't panic. And again, because of not panicking, we're able to get 2 kills and kind of get back into the game, despite the invade obviously being kind of difficult. And so again, now that the game has stabilized a bit for me personally, I'm going to be going back to farming pretty normally. Again, going back to my blue side, clearing it all together, probably recalling after this, I'm imagining, and then going back to my red side, since my red side camps are going to spawn now. My red obviously got stolen already, so I know my red's not really up. However, it'll probably be spawning in about a minute, but I have my other 2 red side camps, and if I'm able to get those 2 camps, I'm going to be very close to Lich Bane and still get my first item before the first objective. So again, really what I want you guys to kind of take away from this early game is just things go wrong, invades, weird stuff. Don't panic. Take what you still have available. Maybe force a bit harder on one lane or the other, rather than, again, you have more time because you don't have any camps to clear for a longer period of time, typically when you get invaded, because more of your camps are taken by the enemy and you don't have as much to do. So be a bit more okay with playing a bit harder around a lane if you see an opportunity to gank after taking your camps that are available at least. And then again, be more eager or more looking for invades on the enemy, because you saw how when Master Yi showed himself bot, I was able to easily invade his top side, because if he's wasting time invading my red side, he's probably going to be killable, obviously, or not killable, invadable rather, on his red side, as you saw there. So we're still able to get something out of the whole situation, as you kind of saw from that, and so it doesn't end up being too bad. Here I know he's probably on his red side, so I kind of check to see where he is just to get information, because again, knowing where the enemy is of course always going to be valuable. And then in this case, because we got the play on our bot side, we know our bot side is kind of our stronger side right now, so making a play around the dragon around them is overall what I prefer to do, rather than playing around my Rammus, who is losing lane pretty hard, as you can see here. So basically at this point in this dragon fight, we're just trying to set up pretty, simply play around our W when we can. And again, nothing too complicated as it relates to playing these fights, just getting as much focus as possible onto people. Master Yi ends up going on me, and my ult is pretty much right where he's walking, so we're able to get that poke on him. Usually when it comes to playing fights on Echo, I'm mostly playing around my passive, so you see I kind of get that initial E auto and then proc my passive with my Q on the Master Yi. Then I run away, and that's when he again Qs onto me. I'm able to ult him, and again we're able to play around that passive to kind of run out. So it's very like in and out in the fights, as Echo is generally how I would describe the early team fights. And now that we played that dragon fight out, I'm just going back to farming my camps again. The Yasuo actually soloed the Herald. I don't really know. It's a weird game. I have Rammus top lane, and Rammus is getting destroyed by Yasuo, which I'd imagine is a good matchup, but then he randomly kills him here, and there's a lot of weird stuff happening in the top lane early on in the game. But again, we just go right back to farming, and this is kind of how the mid game usually goes. Farm your camps, look for plays around turrets and whatnot once your camps are taken. Pretty straightforward. Again, nothing too complicated here. Basically, the main things that you do see in this early game, again, are really just responding to that invade, not panicking, and then, again, around that dragon fight, playing very in and out as Echo, using your passive to get back out, and then, again, usually finding some type of ult damage. That's pretty much how I'm playing these fights out as Echo, generally speaking. But, again, you can see the game is pretty stable at this point. Nothing too bad going on. We're about even gold as a team. I'm quite strong, farming up well, and again now just looking for some type of play, usually in the mid game around side lane turrets. So if there's a top lane or a bot lane turret up, I want to make plays around those sides, because those are the easiest kind of places on the map to get kills and whatnot, which is why you saw us end up playing for this kill here, and then we're able to end up getting that Rammus as well, or not the Rammus, the Rise as well. We go on the Sivir, take her out, and because of the fact that we're making a play around turret, we're then able to get that turret after winning that fight. And that's again why I really like making plays specifically around the side lanes that have turrets up in the mid game, because you have a lot more to gain from it if you do win the overall situation like you saw here. And then lastly, again, I'm close to my item, so I just stay for one more wave so that I can end up getting that Soul Stealer. Then we reset and we get ready to kind of do a similar thing on bot side. But obviously I have my top side camps up first, so I have to clear those ideally before I end up doing anything around that bot turret. So as you can see from how I'm approaching a lot of these mid games, it's very much focused on any specific goal, whether it's taking out a turret on the side lane or something along those lines. And I pretty much just do that in between my camp timers. So here, honestly, I think it would have just been better to go straight to my blue side and just clear that. But I did see, pretty low health bars here and a lot of stuff kind of happening. So we ended up trying to get a kill on the fight and do something. And it did end up working out pretty well, because we're able to kill that Yasuo as well. I do have to ult here. And then this is where I believe I get pretty greedy, chasing the Rise way too deep. And we give a shutdown over to the Master Yi. Yeah, so here I end up chasing the Rise way too deep, and I give a 1,000 gold shutdown to Master Yi. And you can see, so again, with this play, kind of similar in the sense that we're making a play around a mid turret. Again, another, in this case, mid turret instead of a side lane turret, but still a tier 1 turret nonetheless. And then again, having a fight around that area when we have the wave pushing, it gives us the opportunity to get more out of it, which is why we did end up getting the mid turret. But the issue with that play, again, is just the risk reward is just, it doesn't make sense to go deeper onto that Rise there, because obviously I'm worth way more gold than anyone on the enemy team because of how many kills I have. And that's a lot of times where you'll see these throws happen in mid game that lead to games just being lost that shouldn't ever be lost. Like, we're in a really good spot there, we just got a really good play, and then I just forced too far, and that leads to us again not gaining anything from that play. And the issue with that as well is I took standing gold, meanwhile they took shutdown gold. So the difference is The standing gold on the map, like a turret, it's a one-time thing. You get the mid-tier one, you can never get that gold again. However, getting the gold from kills, obviously you can get as many kills as possible. Of course, the kills, there is the shutdown mechanic, so it changes based on how many kills you have, how much you're worth. But nonetheless, it's, again, not very valuable for me to take that standing gold and then trade an even or even greater amount to the enemy through them killing me. So I end up basically, the point is, I overforce too hard there. It leads to the enemy having you know, a much easier comeback angle, and kind of gives Master Yi a way into this game, which isn't great. But, you know, that aside, we're in a still relatively decent spot in this game, so basically all we want to do now is see if we can force around the Baron, because we know they're on Dragon. However, they do have a ward there, so I don't want to keep forcing it. My Xayah does for a while, but again, you saw from this kind of mid-game, the main thing that we did try to do with our time was play around these different turrets and waves and make plays around that. Got a little bit greedy at a point, but overall that's kind of the gist of the early game. And then we're shifting into the more late game, which is a lot more focused around controlling a mid wave and then getting control over the Baron from there. Obviously, when I have gold or whatever, I'm just going to recall spend that gold, as long as we, again, don't have really a worry of a certain objective, the Baron, really, being taken, because that's all that the game revolves around now from this point. You, again, saw my different thoughts throughout the early and mid game. Again, early game, really just the response to the invade and the stuff we talked about regarding that. Mid game, trying to make plays around these different turrets. Made the mistake of being greedy, but apart from that, pretty much just making plays around turrets when our camps are not up. And then again, the late game, rather, I can't speak apparently. The late game revolves largely around this objective, the Baron, and so this is why having control around this area is super important. My teammate unfortunately does die. We're luckily able to get the steal. I think my Q ended up getting it. I didn't even get it with Smite. And then again, I should have just left here, but I think I end up going back in. This was just some random greed for me. I don't really know why I did this. Didn't really make sense. Again, you saw multiple mistakes from me that just don't really make sense. And a lot of times, I find a lot of people when they throw a game or they lose a game, but they were carrying very hard, and I did this, like, I was very frustrated after losing this game, because as you know, I had 21 kills and lost. It's very hard to be like, okay, well, I still fucked up in all these ways, because you're still carrying, right? Like, I'm still 8-2, I'm carrying the game overall, and a lot of my teammates, like my top laner especially, are kind of running it down. But that doesn't mean that there weren't these dumb things that I did that could have, again, given us an avenue to win the game. And so I just kind of want to point that out overall. At this point, you can see we're down 4k gold. Luckily, we have Baron, and so now we're pretty much just stalling the game and farming, you know, for a little bit at this point. So yeah, I mean, now we have our red side up. I go and I farm my red side camp. So kind of skip through, show you just me pushing out bot. We can't really get a lot from this Baron because we obviously mostly died during it. So we're pretty much just trying to, again, play around those outer turrets. You can see kind of similar to the mid game. I'm at this point just trying to get whatever turrets I can, which in this case is making a play for the bot turret potentially, because it's the easiest to take turret. And that's really how I think about the game again, is there's these certain objectives that you really want to play around, like the Baron and the Elder. Everything else revolves around getting gold. The easiest way to get gold is to take guaranteed gold, which starts with your camps, and then again goes later into getting things like the outer turrets, the standing gold, whenever you don't have gold to be gotten from simple things like waves or camps. So it's kind of that order of things that I follow. And through here, again, you see we make the play around this same side of the map, which in this case is, again, the bot, where there's an easy turret to be taken. And so because of the fact that we do win this fight around here, again, we get that turret. So you can see most of my plays this game have revolved around specific things more than just getting a kill. Obviously, sometimes kills show up and you're just going to go and take them. But you can see very often we have a specific purpose with where we are or what we're looking to gain from any individual play, more so than just a kill itself. And again, that's pretty much when you don't have something to do, when you don't have an objective to play around or something like that, this is the type of stuff you're doing. You can see a lot of the mistakes that I've made this game were simply greed. I wouldn't really say there's many like macro things to be doing a lot differently. I'd say maybe the one thing is maybe instead of making that play mid on that turret, I could have taken my top camps first and then made the play. But a lot of the mistakes, again, are kind of this more greedy over chasing when we don't need to, doing something that doesn't actually lead to winning the game. This is a mistake a lot of players have, and I definitely find myself making the most when I play assassins, because they're champions that are a bit more, you have to go in, but you're also really squishy. And it's where you try to dive really deep, again, on a play that doesn't actually lead to you winning the game. Like me killing that Rise would never win me the game. The Rise, when I gave away my 1,000 gold shutdown on my first death. But me dying to Rise or dying to Master Yi and giving away an 1,000 gold shutdown, that could lose us the game. And you never really want to be making a play that if your play doesn't work out, you lose the game. But if your play does work out, the game state doesn't really change. That's kind of something that's important to note. And then here again, we're just making a play around the objective. Luckily, I barely get out after the Yasuo ult does catch me. And again, I don't mind fighting because I'm stronger, so I don't think it's really a bad choice to end up fighting around this objective, even though obviously we barely get out and it is pretty scary. And then here we know if we get the Baron that we are going to kill the Sivir, so I try to make a play around the Sivir, but my team ends up getting pretty greedy and trying to go on them, and I think they both end up dying. Yeah, both my tanks end up dying there, so kind of scary. And this is where, again, you can see this game just ends up getting pretty messy through the later parts of the game. Again, we're at the 16.5-minute mark, and at this point in the game, it again revolves around the Baron, right? You see how I'm kind of farming more around the Baron side of the map at the end of the day, not really concerned with that dragon. I don't mind fighting around that dragon earlier, as you saw, because it's a means to gain gold, because if we win the fight, we obviously get a bunch of gold, and then we can potentially get the Baron off of it. But again, pretty much everything does end up revolving around the Baron, rather than really the actual dragon, for example. And again, Master Yi tries to, and somehow 2 times my backwards Q, like my Q coming back, got the smite. Neither times did my actual smite get it, so it's pretty funny. Again, a pretty messy game. Like I said, plenty of mistakes for me, I would say, or not plenty, but like a lot of more, again, it's all really mechanical or like in the moment decision making mistakes that you see. But the reason I wanted to show this again was, one, you can see very clearly my goal at different points in the game from this game. And then you can also see how these types of games, while yes, I'm carrying very hard, there's still many things I can do differently in order to carry these types of games harder. And that's where it gets hard, because I don't really care enough about the game anymore to like want to necessarily improve those things, because like I've gotten rank 1, I've gotten 5-role sovereign, like I don't have a lot to do. So when I'm playing these games, I'm kind of just like freestyling and I'm kind of just having fun. But as it relates to improving, you can see all of these different things when you're really focused are things that wouldn't be happening, and then you would carry these types of games. And these are the types of games where when I was on my rank 1 push, for example, I would be super focused in carrying when the games look completely unwinnable. This is one of those types of games where if I'm not popping off, we're not going to win. And it requires a lot of kind of focus and a lot of those things. So I feel like the reason, again, I want to kind of show this video is these types of losses with assassins where you have 15 plus kills, they happen and they're not completely out of your control. They are possible to carry, and oftentimes they aren't carried because of your own mistakes, the same way that this game is not carried. 1, because my teammates suck, and 2, because I make these mistakes that I otherwise don't need to be making. Again, I know I'm a bit distracted as I'm recording this video, and I'm not maybe articulating myself perfectly, but you can see again throughout these kind of situations when I do end up getting greedy as the assassin player, this is when the most goes wrong. Even there, it was a little bit scary. Luckily, ended up working out. We did get the damage from the ult onto the Yasuo, and we got the kill onto Rakan, but honestly, a bit risky going into so much CC there when I'm this fed. And that type of lack of patience is what can lead to these games being thrown. However, it did work out, and Echo does have a decent kind of get out of jail free card with his ultimate. So he's definitely one of the assassins that's a bit easier to get away with these types of mistakes with. And so approaching this fight again, we're pretty much just trying to get whatever we can out of it, hopefully kill someone here. We're able to get the Sivir, and then again, we're just looking onto the Elder Dragon now at this point. My auto attack unfortunately didn't go into Master Yi, because my goal there with my E was to auto attack Master Yi, but then I ended up messing it up. And here I did an interesting thing, which actually was pretty cool. I E'd onto the wall there because I knew if I E'd onto Master Yi, he would Q me and I wouldn't kill him. So that was actually kind of a creative thing that I thought was a pretty cool outplay. So I'm going to show you guys again, just because I think this is kind of an in-the-moment decision that was probably pretty hard for a lot of people to make. But basically, again, I just E against the wall, so my auto attack is big, and then I kill him from that, when otherwise I would have died because I would have E'd onto him and he would have Q'd me. Not anything crazy, like anyone could do that, but a lot of times these kind of panicky situations are where a lot of people will mess up and then they won't be able to stall out the game. But in this case, you do see we're at least able to stall out the game due to those outplays. And then this is again an interesting kind of situation that you will find yourself in on occasion, which is basically one of the 2 major objectives, Elder and Baron, have been taken, but the other one either isn't spawned yet or can't be taken yet. And because of that, there's a weird kind of, I don't know the word, like, they're staggered. so you can't necessarily have Baron and Elder at the same time, or at least you're not going to have them for very long periods of time at the same time. This makes it very hard to actually end the game and often leads to games being stalled out. So right now, for example, you can see they're trying to obviously use their Elder to get Baron, but almost all of them lost Elder except for Ryze. So we can pretty much sit here, hover, stall out the Elder Dragon, and because of that, it's very hard for the enemy to actually end the game fully. And that's pretty much all we're trying to do, is we're trying to, when you're the team kind of on the back foot, like you can see right now at this point in the game, they do have more control. They are overall the ones kind of winning until Ari got that pick. And when that's the case, you're really just trying to make sure these things are staggered, these objectives are staggered, waiting until you find a pick like our teammate did around the Sivir. And then from there, that's when you're really going to look to kind of like make your play. So that one pick that we found, it leads to us looking for multiple other picks and ends up obviously working out super well for us. However, because they do have the Ryze with Elder, and okay, this is a funny thing. I forgot about this, but the Ryze ult, I didn't see it because it looked like my W. Like that Ryze ult was hidden on my W. Like that was, bro, that was really unlucky. I've never had that happen, but I have my W placed on the ground and I didn't see Ryze ult because it was like hiding the Ryze ult. And so I didn't know I'm getting Ryze ulted on, and then all of a sudden two people pop out of nowhere onto my face. That was pretty scary. So that was a bit of a messy whole situation there, but still pretty funny nonetheless. And then the Ryze pretty much just gets really greedy and dies anyways, which I also think is pretty funny. But you know, it kind of works out, so it's not a big deal because the Xayah does kill him. But yeah, very messy situation, as you can see there, kind of funny. But at this point in the game, again, I'm really just concerned with stalling out the objective so that, again, it's staggered so the enemy can't really end the game. And then at this point, again, we're just playing around the Baron, same as kind of earlier parts of the game. You can see, ultimately, the game really can be simplified into what you're doing when objectives aren't up, and then what you're doing when key objectives like the Baron or Elder are up. Pretty much if you just think about the game in those two simple ways, I feel like you can generally be making the right choice in a majority of games. Again, here our teammates go for a good pick, and so we're pretty easily able to follow up. Nothing too complicated there. And because of that, obviously we do have to reset to make sure we catch out the Sivir, but overall we are in a good spot, as you can see. So we go onto the Sivir, and I think I end up chasing her a bit too far. So that ends up kind of wasting some time. I probably should have just backed up right away. But, you know, we do end up making that mistake. And then I think my teammates end up dying. I don't even know what happened to the Sivir. Like, they kind of just run away. I don't know where Sivir went. Like, Sivir, somehow, you're going to see Sivir. And yeah, my teammates end up dying to Ryze there. And then the Sivir ends up at the Baron somehow. I was pretty confused about how that happened. Kind of a funny goose chase, but yeah, if I didn't get so distracted and I was just focused purely on getting the Baron, I think it would have been a lot better. So that was kind of a mistake by me. And now at this point, we're just looking for the picks onto the enemy. So you see we do end up using our Proto Belt and then getting the pick onto the Sivir. And here again, I make another mistake. I don't check scoreboard to actually see who is alive. And because of that, I don't think about Rakan being able to W me and then Yasuo ulting me. So again, many times throughout this game, I make these mistakes of pretty much just carelessness, where again, you saw the first play giving away my shutdown, the second death I forgot, but then this death here, where Rakan does ult me, and I could have easily just looked at my scoreboard and realized I can't start Baron there. Instead, I do it, I die, and it's another crucial moment I'm dead on, which means the enemy can potentially get Elder and get the Baron, obviously. So all of these key moments mean that even though I'm carrying the game and I'm super fed and an assassin and I made a lot of really good plays, I'm going to lose the game. And it's not necessarily, obviously, again, my teammates aren't good, but it doesn't matter. I can carry this game anyways. And that's where a lot of people will kind of have this thing where they'll be like, oh, I got a lot of kills. I got SVP, A rating, S rating. Therefore, matchmaking is bad and my teammates suck. Matchmaking is bad. Your teammates do suck, but it doesn't mean you can't still win those games. I've had games where I go like 3, 2, and 4 that I've played way better in than this game where I had 20, 14, or 4 and 13. Even though I got a lot of kills and I had a lot of cool plays, I make those crucial mistakes. That's just as important as all of these, you know, random kind of plays that you make, or random, like, you know, making a random mistake at a random point in the game is not nearly as impactful as making those mistakes during those kind of points in the game. And that's, again, very common with assassins, because assassins are so squishy, yet still have to go so all in. And so these types of mistakes are very common. You saw many of those plays where I just lacked awareness or where I didn't think properly about a specific situation, and that leads to me losing. And again, I play well overall, make those crucial mistakes, and we do lose. So I know this video was kind of all over the place. I was distracted. That's why I kept stopping my recording in the middle of it. But I still think the value is, it's pretty valuable to still listen to, even if it's a bit disorganized. So I hope it was useful to you guys in some way, shape, or form, and I will see you in the next one.